If I were to ask you what the largest video game company in the world is, what comes to mind? Maybe Nintendo has the largest market share due to popularity amongst the children and man-children demographics? Or perhaps it's Microsoft, the favorite amongst kids who use their parents' credit cards to spend $500 on Fortnite skins? What about Sony with the I still buy my graphic tees at Hot Topic demographic? EA with the sports fan boomer demographic? No. Actually, it's the company that caters to the largest demographic of them all. Asians. That's right, even in gaming, once again, China #1. More specifically, a massive gaming and entertainment conglomerate aptly named Tencent, which also happens to be the hourly wage of their employees. Haha, get it? Because it's Chinese and they exploit their workers? And it's actually a big problem. Almost as big of a problem as Tencent. And how big is Tencent, you ask? Well, Tencent Games owns Riot Games, Clash of Clans, PUBG Mobile, King of Glory. No, I don't know what it is, but I bet it's played by 1 billion people in China. They own 40% of Epic Games, Fortnite, and WeGame, the Chinese version of Steam, which has over 200 million users. And that's just their gaming division. As a conglomerate, Tencent Holdings also has a motion pictures department responsible for some major Hollywood film releases. They have a music department that runs the largest streaming apps in China. They own WeChat, which is the most used app in the world. There's Tencent Online Banking, Penguin Esports, Tencent AI, Tencent Comics, Tencent Toilet Paper, Tencent Traffic, and Tencent Testosterone. Okay, I might have made a few of those up. But the point is, they have a company for just about every single form of entertainment or media you can think of, and they're not stopping with Chinese companies. Tencent also has major holdings in several international companies, including Spotify, Ubisoft, and Activision Blizzard. Now, you may have heard about Blizzard's close connection with the lucrative Chinese market after the fiasco and PR nightmare that ensued from Blizzard deciding to ban Hearthstone champion player Blitzchung from competing for 6 months, and they also initially revoked all of his prize money, all because he was speaking out in support of democracy and human rights for Hong Kong. After doing so, they pissed off the entire internet, but also apparently the US Congress, who actually wrote a bipartisan signed letter condemning Blizzard's anti-free speech punishment. Again, this is the US Congress we're talking about here. They can't agree on anything, and yet they agreed that Blizzard was basically anti-American and anti-freedom for banning a player just because he was supporting his people's right to protest. To address all of this, the president of Blizzard, J. Allen Brack, came out with a half-baked apology during BlizzCon.
BlizzCon has people from 59 countries all around the world here at the show today. That is amazing.
In this apology, Blizzard didn't actually own up to anything specific or change their decision to ban Blitzchung. I was actually planning to go to BlizzCon in a full Winnie the Pooh cosplay this year, but unfortunately some circumstances came up and I couldn't join my brethren in protesting outside of the event.
You made me get off my couch! You made me get off my couch! You made me get off my couch!
But on October 10th, 2019, I did cancel my subscription to World of Warcraft in protest of Blizzard's utter disregard for human rights and freedom. And do you know how hard that was to do? Do you have any idea how much I enjoy classic World of Warcraft? I have multiple videos on this channel dedicated to World of Warcraft. I played that game for years, okay? As a kid too. Do you know how ingrained it is in my brain to play classic WoW? The withdrawals for quitting World of Warcraft cold turkey are worse than quitting porn. But I decided that standing with the people of Hong Kong means that I can no longer help fund a company that suppresses their struggle. What most people don't realize is that the power China and Tencent has within the US and international markets isn't limited to only Blizzard and Hearthstone, or even gaming companies in general. Tencent's WeChat app, one of the largest social media platforms in the world, greatly restricts the kind of content and messages that are allowed to be sent between its users. Any image or message that is deemed too political, religious, or critical of the government in any way can be detected by an artificial intelligence built into the app, which then notifies authorities about who said what and puts them on a list and potentially punishes them. An article published by The Diplomat delves into the Orwellian nightmare program Tencent runs. Dutch hacker Victor Gevers revealed that the content of millions of conversations on Tencent applications among users at internet cafes are being relayed, along with the users' identities, to police stations across China. Just 3 days later, the company's founder and chief executive, Pony Ma, took his seat among 3,000 delegates to the National People's Congress, the country's rubber stamp parliament. So not only do Tencent apps relay all matters of your personal interactions to the authoritarian Chinese government, but the actual CEO of Tencent himself meets with China's parliament. That would be like, instead of being questioned, albeit very ineffectively, by Congress, Mark Zuckerberg was a part of Congress. And if you dare to question him or the government, you could be sent to a Chinese prison, where the preferred form of torture is being forced to play League of Legends ranked solo queue every single day. But surely Tencent will never expand into Western markets. It's not like we use any sort of dystopian, censored, circle jerk social media sites. Well, at least it's American. Edit. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. Meanwhile, China has begun implementing policies regulating the amount of time and money minors are allowed to spend on online games. China's policies are so strict that when Nintendo tried to break into the market with the Switch, only the most politically correct game was allowed on the eShop. Interestingly enough, that was New Super Mario Bros. U, which also sucks. Naturally, this poses a threat to Tencent, who made a lot of their capital initially through microtransactions and gaming from Chinese consumers. These new restrictions provide even more incentive for companies like Tencent to expand into Western markets and take over already established companies. And have you seen what Riot Games has been up to lately? Forget League of Legends, Riot's latest endeavors into making an FPS game, a card game, teamfight tactics, and other kinds of spin-offs mean that Riot, aka Tencent, are going to be around for a very long time, and they're going to continue dominating the online gaming market. They're on par to make Activision Blizzard look like Activision 10% chance of rainfall by comparison. And it's not just Tencent either. Bungie, the developers of Halo and Destiny, recently received a $100 million investment from a Chinese gaming company called NetEase. Have you ever seen those cringy dancing videos uploaded by teenagers and furries?
Woo!
Furry gang, furry gang, furry gang, furry.
That's right. TikTok is also owned by a Chinese company. More specifically, a startup called ByteDance based in Beijing. And to clarify, not that I should have to, but just in case somebody is completely missing the boat, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with being a Chinese company or, of course, being Chinese at all. The problem I have is when these companies, American ones included, tend to completely trample over the rights of people and even their own consumers. For example, on February 27th, 2019, the FTC actually fined TikTok $5.7 million for collecting information from minors under the age of 13. But you might say companies exist to make a profit. Freedom of speech doesn't apply to private businesses. Yes, I realize that, but what happens when gaming, film, social media, music, and anime are all owned by the same company and subject to the same levels of extreme censorship and restriction? It's the same argument against Google or Facebook censoring free speech. When a private company holds that much power when it comes to online communication and user information, it's not really so private anymore, is it? Initially, I set out to investigate Tencent's tightening grip on the gaming market. But upon finding out that they own massive companies ranging from banking to educational programs, and after finding out just how all-encompassing their reach is, I'm seriously concerned that if they continue growing, they're going to become this massive, nightmarish global corporation. So what can be done about this? What can be done about Tencent's takeover of the gaming market and media in general, or other corporations growing in power when we don't agree with how they operate, or we feel like they're not giving enough rights to people? Well, as the consumers, we actually have a lot more power than you might think. Too often, people look for guidance based off the actions of the collective, or the group. But ironically, change comes from the individual level. If everyone based their support of a company like Blizzard, for example, based on their own principles and morals, rather than looking to the masses for their guidance, you would see a lot more change on an individual level. And after enough people make a change at the individual level, you now have a new group formed, a new movement of ideas that in this case don't support someone like Blizzard. And when that movement grows, well, it's a financial disaster for Blizzard to continue enacting those policies that people disagree with. Now, on some level, we all are hypocrites when it comes to putting our convenience or selfishness over our principles. I mean, pretty much everybody owns an iPhone. I certainly do, or some sort of smartphone, and these are made in factories in China, where, need I remind you, they have self-death nets, because the working conditions are so awful. And yet, I am, in a way, financially supporting Apple in this case with my iPhone. And maybe a phone is a bit of a necessity, but I don't need to play World of Warcraft and support a company like Blizzard that doesn't value human rights and freedom of speech. World of Warcraft is something I can live without. Now, that's not to say that spending money is the only way you can enact change. For example, in support of Hong Kong, a friend of mine printed out 30 custom-made stickers that we stuck in various places across town, which helped to spread awareness and make an impression on people. And I think we succeeded.
Stop Hong Kong, bro! Stop Hong Kong!
Hell yeah! By boycotting Blizzard, I'm standing with the people of Hong Kong for their right to protest, to be sovereign citizens, and to rally against the oppressive, authoritarian regime of the Chinese government. And until the rights and freedoms of the Hong Kong people are fully ensured, I will not stop boycotting Blizzard games or the games of any company that tries to silence their voice. Yes, hello, Mr. President.
Yeah!
Why, yes, I am in the middle of my boycott Blizzard speech.
Yippee!
The Senate did what? They passed 2 bills in unanimous support of the Hong Kong people? Including a bill that prohibits the exports of munitions to the Hong Kong police force?
Wow, this is amazing! This is such good news.
Well, why the hell are you making noise at 3 a.m.? Because I'm a YouTuber, Dad!
Alright, well, I'm in the middle of filming a video, so...
Get off that damn computer! Shut up, I hate you!
Guys, you won't believe the news I just got. It's kind of a lot to explain, but basically my protest paid off. So thanks for watching. Okay, what's my fucking login info? It's time to pwn some noobs in. Oh no, it's not working. There we go. No, please, I need to pwn noobs in Warsaw Gulch.
Well, hey there. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please check out our sponsors over at Alibaba.com. None of the bad things I said about Tencent apply to Alibaba. They're your #1 source for high-quality products such as instant ramen noodle hoodies, do-it-yourself butt implants, and of course, the People's Republic of China flags. Thanks again, Alibaba, for making the content of this video possible. And remember, no refunds.
Finally, found my World of Warcraft password.
Capitalist pig.